there's been a story breaking the last couple of days as we record now, which is broken my heart.
Oh, yeah?
I've had my heart broken. It is the second darkest day in the history of Australian cricket.
Oh,
A bad thing has happened.
okay.
It involves the cricket bowl.
Okay.
Just to give you a little bit of context first.
Here's these moments when we're recording Brady, where I feel like I'm trying to think, is Brady winding up for a serious, sad story, or is Brady winding up for a bunch of bullshit? Right? Like, I don't know which it's going to
Can't both be true.
It's
This is a serious story.
a serious. Okay, so now I got to put
To
on
you,
serious
it's not
voice.
serious. And like no one has
Right now.
died. You're okay to make jokes,
Okay.
just so you know. You're not going to start making jokes at my expense and then I'm going to tell you about someone dying or something. It's not like that.
Okay. I'm already doubting its seriousness, but go on.
All right. So in cricket, they play with this hard leather bowl. And unlike some sports where the ball can just be replaced if it gets a bit damaged and things like that, like in baseball, they're forever replacing the balls. If one gets a bit scuffed, they throw out another one and they go through, I don't know how many balls they go through in a baseball game, but they must go through dozens, if not over 100 or something.
Even I know that. Like, you go through a bunch of balls in a
Yeah.
baseball game.
Yeah.
Or if you're an amazingly powerful batter, like you knock the ball right out of the covering. Like, that's what you want to do if you're playing
There you
baseball
go.
in a movie.
There you go. Cricket is very different. And the condition of the bowl is a very important part of the game. And you use the same bowl for a very long period of time, for 80 overs, 80 sets of 6 deliveries. And you have to use the same bowl from the start until it's old enough to be replaced.
Okay, can you give me a duration in hours? Because the gibberish you just said there means nothing to me.
Okay, the duration in hours would be, I would say, 5 hours of cricket.
Okay, all right. So you're playing with the same ball for an afternoon.
Well, 5 hours, you'd go from the morning through to the afternoon. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Anyway, and the reason for this is when a cricket ball is new, it's very shiny and hard and has this like shiny lacquer over it, which makes it swing through the air more and bounce more. And it's very difficult for the batsman to negotiate. And the bowling team, the team throwing it down to the batsman, has an advantage. And then as it starts wearing and it gets whacked by the bat lots of times and it rubs on the grass and it hits the fence, that lacquer starts coming off and the ball starts to get softer and it becomes easier for the batting team.
And presumably that's part of the game, right? Is like both teams know this. Yeah.
It's a very, very important part of the game.
Okay.
Very important part of the strategy and the way the game is played. And then later on, when it becomes really beaten up and certain things start happening to it, the advantage can actually swing back to the team that's bowling for various reasons in the way that the ball has changed. Now, there are very strict rules about what you can do to the ball, because obviously all these players are holding and touching the ball all the time during the game, and they are allowed to do things to try and maintain its condition. The fielding team or the bowling team, when they're holding it and getting ready to use it for the next throw at the batsman, they're allowed to rub it like on their trousers and their clothing to sort of shine it and keep it shiny because they want the ball to be shiny. They particularly want the ball to be shiny on one side, because if one side is shiny and they're preserving it and the other side is getting all beaten up, the imbalance in the ball makes it swing through the air more easily. So they'll be shining one side of it. You're also allowed to use sweat and saliva and put it onto the shiny side of the ball to try and preserve the ball.
Gross. Okay.
Yes, gross, but part of the game. And so there's all these things you're allowed to do, but you're not allowed to tamper with the ball. You're not allowed to pick it at seams. You're not allowed to use like a piece of sandpaper or sneak something onto the field to affect the condition of the ball. And this is like a sacred rule of cricket.
Okay, so no tampering, but licking is fine.
You don't lick it, but I don't
thought
know
you
what
just
they
said
do.
saliva was fine. Is licking...
Normally you do it with your finger. I don't know what they do if players started licking the bowl. I imagine that's probably against the rules. I don't know.
I don't know. If saliva is okay, where does saliva come from? I think that is within the letter, perhaps not the spirit of the law.
Oh, no. Definitely players will take saliva from their mouth and do it. Normally it's more sweat. You'll take a bit of sweat from your brow on a hot day and onto your finger and then rub it into the bowl so you've got your nice, shinier, heavier side.
Right.
Anyway, not tampering with the bowl is sacred in cricket. Now, at the moment, Australia are playing a series of test matches against South Africa. It's quite an acrimonious series, as it often is between these two teams. There's been all sorts of controversy, but just run-of-the-mill controversy. But yesterday, one of the Australian players was filmed with some kind of piece of tape or paper, perhaps doing something to the ball. And everyone saw this and it went up on the big screens and it all went crazy. And like a message was run out to the Australian fieldsman from one of his teammates. And then the umpires went up to this guy. But before the umpires got to him, he stuck this piece of tape or whatever he had literally down his pants into his underpants to hide it. And then when the umpires came up to him and said, "Hey, what's going on? Apparently you've been filmed with some piece of tape," he like emptied his pockets and was like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about," you know. But everything had been filmed and photographed, including him shoving it down his pants.
Right. It's a little late when your crimes are on the Jumbotron.
Anyway, so at the end of the day's play, there was a press conference, and this guy fronted up along with the captain of the team. I guess most people were thinking how they're going to explain this away. And he just came up and said, "Yeah, I did it. I was told to do it, and I did it." And then the captain of the Australian team, which is like, that's a more important job than being the Prime Minister of Australia, being the captain of the Australian cricket team.
Okay.
Basically admitted, said, "Yeah, me and the leaders of the team had the idea. We thought it would give us an advantage. We told him to do it, and he did it." So they've just basically said, "Yeah, we've done it." And this has shaken Australia to its core. The Australian cricket team cheating, I cannot explain to you why this is like a national tragedy. It's partly because cricket is like, rightly or wrongly, fames itself on this reputation of like fairness, to the point where culturally, in a lot of countries, cricket is associated with the concept of fairness. Have you ever heard the saying, you know, that's not cricket, it's just not cricket?
Yeah, I have heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, that means it's not fair. That's how much cricket is about fairness. But particularly in Australia like so prides itself on like a fair go and things being fair. It's like part of the, you know how there are cultural things like the American dream or things like that. In Australia, it's all about a fair go and fairness.
I've never been to Australia, but that is a phrase I feel is associated with Australia, the idea of a fair go.
So you've got this perfect storm. You've got cricket, which is all about fairness. You've got Australia, which is all about like a fair go. And there's this national sport, and it's been like, I cannot tell you what a big deal it's become. Like the Prime Minister of the country's weighing in, saying his opinions on what should be done, and everyone's got an opinion. It doesn't help the Australian cricket team are quite like arrogant people that always speak their mind and tell other people off. So it's also this comeuppance, because when other people have been caught cheating in cricket, the Australian cricket team's always been all over them and given them a telling off. And now they've been caught doing like this terrible thing. All the conventions of cricket, like the things that would be considered sportsmanlike and gentlemanly, over the years have just eroded away because money and sport and stuff like that. And it's almost like the one thing that's been held on to is not tampering with the ball. It's been kept as the one thing you can't do.
I wonder, Brady, though, has it eroded over time, or has the Jumbotron just been catching people more?
You do get ball tampering controversies every 5 years or so. But it's not that. It's just there are certain things in cricket that 20 years ago you would do that you don't do anymore because of the way sport has become more competitive and higher stakes. And people just like accept that now. The classic example is this thing called walking. In cricket, when a batsman gets out, sometimes he'll do something that means he should be out, but sometimes the umpire doesn't see it or know about it. And it was always considered, if you know you've done something to be out, even if the umpire doesn't give you out, you walk off, you give yourself out and you walk off. That's like gone out the window now.
Right.
20 years ago, you would do that. Now, no, if the umpire didn't see it, I'm staying. Those things have gradually changed, but ball tampering has always been considered the red line that you mustn't cross.
Poor Brady. I feel like all the things that you are idealistic about have slowly drained from the world. Right. It's like, oh, the idealism and heroism of NASA, it's gone for the crass commercialism and incredible success of SpaceX.
Yeah.
And now, like, oh, your boyhood sport that you viewed as the bastion of fairness, now people are tampering with balls in cricket.
They're tampering with balls. They're sticking tape down their pants. I tell you what, like I've always known the Australian cricketers, most of the Australian cricketers are kind of knobs, but I've kind of been willing to be in denial because, you know, they win a lot.
Right, that's how sports are. These guys are jerks, but there are jerks.
Yeah, they're mind knobs.
And if they win a lot, then I really don't mind. If they lose a lot, then it's a problem.
Yeah. But now it's like, oh, this is bad. This is like a national tragedy.
I mean, you make it sound so serious that I think Australia should be banned from the international cricket league.
I don't know about banning Australia, but
Oh,
some
no.
people are calling
No,
for
outrageous. Yes, no, banning Australia. No,
no,
good.
it's about the players. Like the people are calling for some pretty draconian punishments for the players. I don't know what will happen. The problem is the Australian captain who authorised this and who's ultimately responsible is also like the best cricket batsman in the world.
Gee, that's a real dilemma there, Australia.
Mm,
He broke all the rules, but he's also really good at the game.
yeah,
This is like sports scholarships all over again.
I
Like, oh,
know.
this guy's really dumb, but he's great at basketball, so we're going to let him into this college because we want to win more. What do you think should happen in this situation?
The problem is, like, don't worry, I'm embarrassed by it, right? And I don't want to. I don't want to be like someone who's making excuses for my
Wait a
team.
second, wait a second, wait a second. Stop right there. Why
What?
are you embarrassed by this? You didn't have anything to do with this. Or did you?
I don't know. Just because they're my team, you get a bit embarrassed for your team.
You didn't do anything. You should not feel embarrassed. That is an error in empathy. I think that's what that is. But okay, you feel embarrassed for your team. What do you think should happen?
I don't know. I think everyone needs to cool down a bit because people who've done this before got punished, and we should look at what the previous punishments were. And all this stuff
Hmm.
about, like, hangings and lynchings and all the different things people are talking about, I think we need to just give it some
That
time.
sounds a bit far. Yeah, I don't
Mm,
think it should be a capital crime to mess
mm,
with a cricket ball. That seems a little bit far.
yeah.
I'm going to agree with you there.
It was just the embarrassment of sticking it down his pants as well, which is on all the front pages of the newspapers.
Every human has that response though to try to do the like quick cover up. It's like a reflex. Like obviously, if you can keep control of your mind and you do something wrong, the best way out is to always just own it and be like, yeah, I tried to put tape on the ball. You caught me red-handed, and put your hands up and go. But it's such a human reflex. You're like, oh, quick, I'll shove it down my pants, even though they saw it on the Jumbotron. And maybe if I'm really quick, I can get away with it. It's like the cover-up is always worse than the crime, right? That's how things work
Yeah.
in the world. And this is one of those cases. Are you going to be able to ever watch cricket again, Brady?
Yes, of course, but it's a dark time for Australian cricket, this. Like, it's going to be years before it kind of fades and it isn't, like, at the front of people's minds quite a lot.
You keep saying it's a dark time. I mean, people cheat in sports. It's a thing that happens. Or like, in soccer, people pretend like they've been injured and they haven't been injured.
This is the interesting thing. There are different kinds of cheating. And, like, you're right. When people pretend they're injured in football, soccer, people kind of accept that as part of the game. But there are other forms of cheating that people don't accept. I mean,
Mhm.
drug cheating is an obvious one.
Hold your horses there. I'm perfectly fine with the drugs in sports, right?
I know you're fine with it.
I still think that's ridiculous.
The obvious analogy that people will be pointing out on the Reddit, especially Americans, is Deflategate. Do you know about this? My namesake, Tom Brady. This was a few
No.
years ago. The New England Patriots were found to have let air out of the football, which would make
Mhm.
it easier for their quarterback to hold the ball. So
Mhm.
that was tampering with the ball as well. And that still haunts Tom Brady. He's like the greatest quarterback in the history of football. But whether he knew about it or not, whether he authorized it or was in on it, like he will take that to his grave.
Well, I mean, again, with this stuff, presumably there's lots of money on the line with these cricket games. I mean, I guess a bunch of people watch. It's not just a Brady in a stadium watching. And
Mm.
as soon as that's the case, you are setting up an incentive where people think that they can get away with cheating and people's careers can be affected in a good way if they can get away with the cheating. Like, I'm going to imagine that the average professional sports player is more competitive than the average human and will be looking for advantages every way that they can get them and wants to push the rules a little bit. So it's like, it's structurally inevitable that in professional sports you're going to have cheating. Like I can't see any way around it. And then it's just a question of, can you arrange the punishments to be severe enough that people do the mental calculus that it's not worth it? Which is why I think maybe Australia should be banned from the cricket league.
I sometimes think maybe your brain doesn't really define cheating. Like you sort of have this very, pragmatic, if you can get away with it, well, then you can get away with it. Like, you do think there is cheating and cheating is wrong.
This is a thing that in conversation I find is a weird, hard thing to do, where when you describe something, people often assume that you are advocating for the thing.
Right.
So I am not advocating for cheating. I'm simply saying that in certain environments, it's crazy to expect that there won't be cheating.
Hmm.
And so the way you arrange an environment can decrease the probability of cheating. And I'm thinking of a thing like if you have two chess grandmasters playing, and like there have been some very interesting cases of how people have tried to cheat in chess by getting information in all kinds of ways. But you have more structural options to try to limit what's occurring. Like everyone's keeping an exact record of the moves on the board, and there's only a finite number of moves. And you can do lots of things to try to limit the information that can come to the players from either the audience or their environment. Like you have more control. So I feel like I would expect that in something like professional chess, there is far less cheating, like per human game hour, than in something like professional sports.
Yeah.
Because in professional sports, there's just more degrees of freedom for it to occur. It's not like my advocacy position is like anything you can get away with it, like get away with it. It's just simply like this is the expectation that in environments, this sort of thing will or will not happen. And if you want cricket to return to the game where there is no cheating and everybody's following the rules, then you have to think about how do you structurally change the environment in which cricket occurs. Maybe more jumbotrons is the answer.
More jumbotrons, less money would also do it, but
But the only way you're going to get less money is if less people like cricket.
yeah.
Make cricket less popular, yes, and I'm sure there will be less cheating as well because there's less on the line. But I don't think that's what you want. So, but yeah, I just like it's a thing in human conversation, and I feel like people are very quick to jump to this idea that like a description of a thing is advocacy for the thing. And there are people who sometimes I feel like they don't see the difference between those two things. Obviously, I'm not saying that's you. Like you're just asking the question in this conversation, but it's a thing that I'm aware of out in the world sometimes.
So, Gray, it is often said that cheaters never prosper. Is that a necessary lie that we tell people?
I think it is a necessary lie that we tell people.
Although
Brady.
these cheaters haven't prospered, but yeah, sometimes cheaters do prosper.